Hey guys, it's Dave for Blizzard. We're back with another My Meat video, specifically talking about the playoffs. So, before I get into any of like the real important, the matchups or any of that or the starting lineups, first things first, I want to talk about who's actually out for this game and some players that are out for the series, because there's a few of them already. So Sabonis is out with plantar fasciitis. He could still come back later in the series. Jeremy Lamb, he's out for the season, so he's not going to be playing at all. Derek Jones had a neck strain in the last game the Pacers played against the Heat. He was trying to run around the screen and got elbowed by the center. I don't know how to pronounce the guy's name, so I'm not even going to try. But yeah, he ran into him and he fell down. It looked worse than it actually was, though, so he should be back at some point in the series. Gabe Vincent of the Heat and KZ Okpala, they're both out for personal reasons, it said. And before the game started, it said the lineup would be Dragic starting over Kendrick Nunn at point guard, Duncan Robinson shooting guard for the Heat, Jimmy Butler, of course, at small forward, Jay Crowder at power forward, and Bam Adebayo at center. Just looking at the Heat's lineup first, and then I'll go into the Pacers lineup. But I read a stat from one article yesterday that particular starting lineup that I just rattled off just now was outscoring other teams by 27.5 points per 100 possessions. That's pretty good. That's really, really good. Very efficient, and that lineup easily the best, I would say, that the Heat have put out. And they definitely work off of each other. Dragic can shoot threes, Duncan can shoot threes, Butler can shoot threes, Crowder can shoot threes. Just good floor spacing with those guys. And then while they're doing their thing out on the perimeter, they could have Bam just doing whatever he needs to do in the paint and just causing havoc, getting offensive rebounds, getting putbacks, all that good stuff. So, really, really good lineup. For the Pacers, they got Malcolm Brogdon, Victor Oladipo, who's still working his way back from his injury. So he's still not 100%, it looked like, from the past few games that I had seen. Aaron Holiday at small forward, TJ Warren at power forward, and Miles Turner at center. Okay, just flipping through my various notes here. Let's see. So, a couple things I want to point out. Pacers have been struggling offensively without Sabonis, but historically, especially the past 6, 7, 8 years or so, generally speaking, they've always been a strong defensive team, and that's been their main focus. And that's no different this year. They're very stout defensively, so I'll give them a lot of credit for that. This year, they're actually the third best defensive rating in the entire league, which is really good. And although they allow they allow a lot of threes per game, they give up quite a few shots at the 3 point line. They're only allowing 31.3% on those 3 point shots that they end up allowing opponents to shoot, which is really good. They do at times struggle to defend inside the paint and struggle to get defensive rebounds because of their small ball lineups, which is definitely a problem because obviously you want to have as many possessions as you can, especially with a team that's struggling offensively like the Pacers. They're going to want to get as many of those extra possessions as they can. And if they're struggling to rebounds, they're not going to be able to get as many unless they're getting steals or forcing a lot of turnovers, which they still definitely could do. But if they're getting extra possessions from out rebounding the Heat, it would make it even easier for them to get those extra possessions. Now, looking at the X factors, we have one starter and one bench player for each. So I'm going to start with the Pacers first on this one. So for the Pacers, I got Miles Turner, who's their center. He's definitely a pretty solid rim protector, and he can get a lot of those defensive rebounds. So if he's locked in today, he can definitely get a lot of those extra possessions that I just talked about, and make sure that he don't get too many offensive rebounds with Bam Adebayo. And also, if he can defend Bam Adebayo well, then the Heat are going to struggle a bit more because he's one of their good offensive weapons as well as defensive weapons to counter Miles Turner. For their bench player, I have Edmund Sumner, and I picked him because he's an up-and-coming player, and he definitely can have a big game if he's locked in as well. And oftentimes in the playoffs, it doesn't always come down to the starters. Sometimes it ends up coming down to who's at the middle or even sometimes end of the bench who can contribute big off of the bench. So if he's locked in and he's feeling himself, he could definitely have a big game, and that would make it harder for the Heat to win today. So for the Heat, I picked Jay Crowder. I absolutely had to pick Jay Crowder because he's been on an absolute tear lately from the 3 point line. He's been shooting 56.4% on his 39 3 point attempts during the bubble restart. Now, obviously, that's not like a huge number of 3 point attempts, but also keeping in mind, obviously, regression to the mean as he takes more 3 point shots, especially in the playoffs, his numbers are going to go down. There's no way he's going to be able to maintain that 56.4% shooting on 3 point attempts the whole way through the playoffs, or, as far as they go in the playoffs, depending on how far they get. But I do think he can manage to hit in like the mid 30s, like 35, maybe 36% 3 point shooting, because he's a solid 3 point shooter and he's been doing it for a while and he's pretty good. So I don't think that's too much to ask out of Jay Crowder for today's game, especially the way he's been playing. And for the bench X factor for the Heat, I had to go with Tyler Herro. A few games ago, off the bench, he had 25 points, and I think like that amount off the bench, something like that. It was some stat like that. I don't remember the exact thing, unfortunately. And he had, I believe it was like a 32-point game in one game that he had started, which is pretty damn good for a rookie. He's also been on quite a tear. Okay, let's see. Alright, so one issue or weakness I see with Miami's game is a lot of games, especially even recently in the bubble restart, they'll have a big lead and then they'll just blow it towards the end of the game for whatever reason. So they definitely have struggled to win close games, but also closing out those games that they had big leads in, as I said. So if the Heat can get out to a big lead by halftime and then just not take their foot off the gas pedal and really just like metaphorically step on the Pacers' throats a bit and really keep them in high pressure situations, they might be able to force them into more mistakes and get out to an even bigger lead and be able to win the game if they're able to maintain their intensity on defense. But they need to sustain that level of focus, which they have struggled to do. Luckily, they do have a couple of veterans like Andre Iguodala who can really make sure they're locked in. Yeah, I think if they just maintain focus and maintain their defensive intensity, they got a pretty good shot at winning this game. So, for the Pacers, if Holiday and Doug McDermott both get hot, they're going to be hard to stop. Both a little bit of streaky shooters, but the thing is with streaky shooters, they're not always hot, but when they do get hot, they're like really, really tough to stop. Like Klay Thompson's a good example. He's not always like firing on all cylinders, but when he does, it's like, oh my god, it's tough to stop that guy. So if they can do that with those two guys and really get them going, that'd be really good for them. And just in general, since they struggle offensively, if they can just have good open looks or really good ball movement, something like that, get out on the fast break to get some momentum going their way. If they can do that and generate those chances, even if they don't make all of them, if they're making a decent percentage of those chances and those shots, then it's going to swing momentum to the Pacers side, and they're going to be able to probably get hot offensively. And then if they just continue to defend well, as they have all season, while doing well with their offensive chances, either on a fast break or open looks from good passing, anything like that, then I think they got a pretty good shot to win the game today. As for the series in general, I think the Heat will win this simply because Sabonis is still out. They've not a very great idea of when he's going to be back. If he's not back for this series, on top of Jeremy Lamb being out for the series. I don't see how they win this series. So, I think the Heat will win in... If I had to give a range, I'd say 5 to 6 games, but I'm leaning more towards the Heat winning in 5 games. So, Heat win in 5 games. You heard it here. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a little bit rusty and rough around the edges. I haven't done a basketball or just sports video in general in a while. So either way, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Don't shit on me too much in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.